Hey, EverettsVLOG. Okay, well, first of all, just on you defending yourself, I want to say, listen, there's no problem. Uh, you know, what I'm looking for, first of all, it's productive to disagree. Second of all, um, I'm looking for things on the net like this color phi experiment. I'm familiar with a lot of phenomena like that, but I didn't know that by name. Or maybe this is one of the things I've seen in the past and I don't always remember. But even if so, it's sort of clicked now. I'll probably remember that now. So I appreciate hearing about things like that. So it's all fine. I do have to say that you did mean to be condescending that time, and that's okay. That's why well, I'm not going to say it's okay, but the point is it is okay in the sense that it wasn't so extreme. It's why I wanted to react appropriately. I don't think I can be condescended to successfully. Normally, I just ignore it, but really, it's in a way it's a show of respect that I decided not to ignore it. I decided that was a part of that video to answer. Now, first of all, I want to talk about this phi color experience. And this does not surprise me anymore because it's in line with a lot of mental phenomena. Now, the idea of an embodied brain, it can mean different things to different people, but the point to me is it's a kind of materialism. That the brain is an organ and operates in a certain way, it's processing information. Now, the computer terms do apply to the brain and the mental states. But it's really very one-dimensional. The reason those terms work, I can go into it. I think I made a video before. But the point is that the brain is not really like a computer here that we're using to log on to the internet. And I'll go on, I'll talk about that more in a second, really. But it is material. And so in that sense, it is like a machine, that's able to process information. And so, yeah, it's not going to do anything like infinitely fast. It's processing information. This phi color experiment it makes sense to me because I believe that we're taking the information in and it's looping around. There's all these loops within the neurons, the cycles that can be made in the neurons, and they flow through the mind, and we create, however our visualization processing works, we create a model. A 3D model. There's a lot of things. There's a optical illusion you might have seen where you draw a line and a cross line in the middle and you have a dot. And you can move this in and out until you get that dot right in the blind spot. Right in the blind spot where the trunk of nerves plugs into the back of the eye. There's a place in the retina that's darkened, but you don't see a black spot. If you do this little optical illusion, what you see is this line with the dot in it becomes just a line. The dot disappears and the line segments there it's a total fabrication, and you can see this anytime you want. Or for that matter, each eye, as I've said this before, I try to make it clear what I'm talking about. Each eye is two-dimensional with flat imagery. There's no 3D information there. It's because of parallax, and we deduce 3D information from not just parallax, but from shading and color as well. We recreate, and it takes a long time, and this processing goes in a loop. I think that we experience things 3 or 4 or 5 times before we experience them in our conscious mind. And there's a lot of evidence for that. So I'm not surprised by that kind of process. So there's a lot of illusion in the way we experience the mind, except that one can even experience this pre-processing. One can understand it and see it in emergency situations when one can witness their own reaction time. The way you have thoughts before you have thoughts before you have shots. You catch glimpses, and it's because whatever this consciousness is, it's able to go out and look at the rest of the mind. And this is also something I'll get to in a minute. What has the consciousness evolved to do? When you're saying that the physical senses have evolved to be accurate about reality, but you say that our conscious processes are different, like when we sense our own mind, that we haven't evolved to sense it correctly. Well, I just talked about some of the things in which we get it wrong. Now, what would be a correct way? Probably the way we do practice the mind is correct in a lot of ways. I mean, a lot of times it is correct to just drive the car and not focus on how it's running. You know, that's taking care of itself so you can drive the car. If you were having to think about every time the engine spun and fired a piston, it might be distracting for driving the car. So the correct thing to do is to just see it as a working unit in an entity, unless it breaks down. In philosophy, we're kind of looking under the hood for fun. And maybe if it's breaking down, we can fix it. Now, you said this idea that to believe in free will, you have to believe that the brain is undergoing a computational process which is neither deterministic nor random. Now, I don't know what you mean by computational. Generally, that term is a technical term. I like to use natural language definitions, as long as we're being clear what definition we're using. You seem to be using that in a technical sense. The brain is not computational. It's not really thought to be computational in the sense that, computation has to do with mathematics, usually, step-by-step mathematical processes. A Turing machine is computational. I don't believe the human brain is exactly computational. I do not believe that the neurons in the parallel structure that they are, the organic structure, the biological structure, which they are and in which they are embedded, I do not think that the processes involved in there can be described with computational techniques. As for whether, let's take that loosely, just meaning a mechanistic process, and that it would have to be not deterministic and not random, and not just some mixture of the two. Yes, it would have to be. Well, actually, no to either of those. I mean, my gut reaction is that, it would have to not be deterministic in this classical sense of prediction. It cannot be deterministic in that sense. It could be many worlds deterministic. And the same thing with random, but more obviously, I want to say we don't know what randomness is. And in my own observation of this issue and free will, and actually years ago, when I had kind of stopped thinking about this subject until recently, or actually, revisiting it, because this subject I think about a lot. It's just that it's a foundation rock of a lot of stuff that I've built since then. So, anyway, the similarity I found is between randomness and choice, randomness and free will, randomness and willpower. You see, it's a matter of perspective, and I, of course, am a relativist, and it's all about different perspectives. From one perspective, something is random. From another perspective, it's a choice. For example, if you choose a number between 1 and 10, you could choose a number between 1 and 10 and even have a random stochastic distribution of the numbers you chose. Though probably I would expect to see some biases. But, you could do well enough that, it's an arbitrarily large set of guesses before I would notice a pattern if you were trying to be random. Still, they're choices. And from your point of view, you're choosing the number. Okay? From my point of view, they are random. Unless I do know what your biases are, they are random. Okay, now, what's that mean? I don't know. But I know it means that, no, I do not think that free will requires things not be random. I think it can be a matter of point of view. Okay? Which point of view you are at determines whether it's random or free will. That's what I think that means. So that leaves that question open. All right, I have more, but it's time to